you should really like pick one thing and do it really well, whether that's picking one subject area and explain it like nobody else has heard of.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Coach Tribe podcast. I am thrilled today, guys, because we have a very special guest. We have a TikTok star with us. A TikTok star, and we have Cass. Cass, welcome. Hello, how are you?
I think you're going a little far with TikTok star, but I appreciate the intro. Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am just so excited, and honestly, come on, 50K followers in 4 weeks, and I think it was 20K in 5 days. I mean, like, if this is not a TikTok star, like, who else has this number? So, dear guests, dear listeners, stick with us because we're gonna go over how Cass managed to do this. She's gonna share with us those tips and tricks, and I'll make sure to get out of her as much as I can so that we can learn from it and then grow ourselves. Cass, is an honest pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Are you kidding me? This is so exciting. I love Pensight. So I'm so glad we connected.
Me too. What can I say? Can you tell us, how did this happen? What is behind this? It's, again, let me just say it one more time. 50K followers on TikTok in 4 weeks. This is, honestly, I've been working for months now and I do not get this. How do I get there? What's the secret? Is there a secret?
Oh, that is like the $1 million question, right? And honestly, there's so many. It's funny when one of your videos goes viral. I always recommend that, like, that's why I tell a lot of people to niche down, because I went viral for the thing that I wanted to be known for on TikTok. But I will say that, like, once your video goes viral, there's a lot of speculation on how you gain your followers. I've had people ask me, like, did you buy your followers? And I'm like, whoa, no, I'm just trying to build a community here. Like, that wouldn't make any sense if I was trying to buy my followers. But I think that one of the biggest things was just bringing high value quickly and consistently. And I tell a lot of people this all the time, and I think we can go into more nuanced approaches, but in my opinion, there's not one set way to grow on TikTok. I just kind of strive for more consistent ways of bringing value, whether that's bringing value once a day, whether that's bringing value from an entertainment perspective, because there's different types of value, right? I bring more educational content, and I recognize that there's a lot of privilege in my niche to grow, because when you're giving social media tips on the native platform, you're going to grow quicker than maybe somebody who's in a very, very saturated niche. So I recognize that privilege, but I think having knowledge in search engine optimization, as TikTok has built that feature out, has really, really been beneficial to me and anybody that I work with.
The Coach Tribe podcast is powered by Pensight. I want to take this opportunity to tell you more about Pensight and how much value it can provide you and your coaching business.
Pensight is an all-in-one platform for coaches and educators that enables you to quickly and easily build a highly credible page and sell your knowledge with one-to-one sessions, group coaching, courses, Q&As, digital products, and bundles. Payments, scheduling, video calling, client communications, and everything else is taken care of.
All it takes is 5 minutes to set up, and it's free. It's the smartest way to kickstart your coaching business. Sign up to Pensight today at pensight.com.
I'm trying to capture your insights for myself, but I think overall you said something very, very useful for us to know, which is there's lots of speculations out there on what works and what doesn't. So for those of you who maybe are at the beginning of the journey, I would say that one of my tips from my personal experience is, instead of trying to learn all of these different tactics and strategies and literally being overwhelmed because there is so much, and the truth is that many of them might work, better, I would say, to narrow down on those as well and just start doing things and then see what works and stick with that. And that was just a parallel to what you said, Cass, because I know how it feels, to feel overwhelmed by so much information and so many different, for example, hashtag strategies. There's so many different ways, or there's so many strategies for each thing. So I just wanted, maybe to ask you, am I right? Like, should we at some point just maybe pick 2, 3 creators that we follow and try to learn from those and apply that.
Yeah, I think so. There's different components of a video that you're right. In summary, yes, I agree that you should really like pick one thing and do it really well, whether that's picking one subject area and explain it like nobody else has heard of. For me, my goal on TikTok was to get on TikTok and really understand, because I had an account prior to this and we can get into that. I never optimized it. It's my dog's account, truthfully. So I just show my dog eating and like being playful, right? But I will say that like I studied TikTok through the lens of a consumer for several months before I even had a presence. And what I noticed is you can either do really well from a visual component perspective, like making sure that everything looks good, those aesthetic videos, right? You could really focus on one niche topic area and figure out how to explain that in a way in terms that people just relate to best. Or you could focus on the logistics of a video, as in SEO or different things. So whenever I tell people that come to my profile, I basically am like, hey, look, my profile is a library of resources. I would be overwhelmed as a consumer if I went to my page and tried to implement every single tip. I kind of look at it as like a big library. You take out 2 or 3 tips that you think you can apply to your next video and try and see if they work for you for a week or 2 weeks. I think people get a little impatient when they try my method one time and it doesn't work. I'm like, whoa, you tried it once, try it a different time of day, try something, maybe try talking about something different, you know? So I think there's no one set formula. And I think anybody who tells you there's one set formula to going viral on TikTok, it definitely has a different motive, I'll say.
Yeah, that's why I think it was so good that we started like this, just to put this out. There are different, paths to success. And instead of being overwhelmed with knowing all of them, I would say maybe, choose just start testing and in the end see what works. But yeah, don't try to because in the end we end up finding these excuses, that there are so many different ways and then we do nothing. So I just wanted to put that out there from personal experience. Now, the way I'm going to do this, Cass, so I'm thinking I've selected some very maybe controversial questions or questions that have, again, many answers. And I think I'm going to ask you, and I'll probably see what you think about, the misconceptions or the common knowledge about the question. And then in the end, I will just want to see what you are doing specifically, whether that is, the success formula. I do not care. I just care about what works for you and I want to learn from that.
Yeah.
So for example, with niching down, because I know you touched on it, and I know there are the people who support the idea of niche down, and this actually helps the algorithm to show the content in front of the right people. But there are also the people who say, no, it's more about you as a holistic approach and it works. What's your view on niching down?
I always think authenticity takes precedence over anything, right? So the way that I sort of match authentic content, especially with people that I work with, as including myself too, right? Like I want to make sure that my authentic personality comes through in my content. So what I advise people to do, and I have videos on this as well, but essentially say, and this is like the number one type of person that I get that I help. They're like, I'm a mom. I want to do fashion TikTok. I want to do beauty. They have all these different niches that they want to cover. And they have all these passion areas or different areas of interest, which is lovely, right? And they're like, but I want to become the niche. I'm like, you can become the niche. That's like a term that's out on TikTok right now. But I'm like, you just don't have to be every niche. And how you kind of combine all of those elements of who you are and what your interests are is really diving back into your personality. So I have a degree in clinical counseling, and psychology is the root of every good piece of content, marketing, etc. So when you really dive back into yourself and think about what you're proud of in yourself, I use that as a common denominator and that level of consistency in all of my content. So in my content, I call it the golden thread. I basically have this general vibe to myself that's welcoming, that doesn't want people to feel like they have stupid questions, because I've definitely been in a situation where I felt stupid in situations, and I never want anybody to come to my page and feel like they're doing something wrong. I think a lot of TikTok experts or social media experts are like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. And with me, I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Like, it's hurting your views. Here's why. you know, and taking that like empathetic tone. So if anybody that I work with is like, I don't know what niche to follow, I tell them to drill back into themselves and say, hey, if you're a funny person, I want to see humor as that common strand. So whether you're talking about Amazon, whether you're talking about being a mom, whether you're talking about your Starbucks coffee haul, I don't care. We need to see the humor. And I've noticed creators do really well because people look for consistency. That's why those get ready with me videos are kind of trendy right now, because they're predictable if you follow a similar format every time. Because anybody who follows you can expect, okay, she's doing her mascara. She's going to ask us what we think of her outfit. Alex Earl is a prime example of this. She's a marketer, whether we like to think it or not, because she gives us that consistency every time. So if you can find one consistent element in your content within yourself, then you don't have to niche down. But it's always encouraged with it from an algorithmic perspective. But longevity wise, you'll be a good creator and you'll want to create content if that feels authentic to you.
Just for those who don't actually know or follow you on CreatorsByCass, what are you focusing on? You mentioned earlier, but just to make clear for those who didn't catch it.
I'm mostly focused on building a community. I was really thankful that I grew really fast, and I knew I'd grow, but I didn't think it would like blow up in the way that it did. But I'm really just focused on building a community of creators that can talk to each other, right? I actually have a Discord server that serves as like a little micro community, and it's being managed by other creators as well. So all I wanted to do was create a safe space where creators could share their pain points, because content creation gets kind of lonely. Like you're filming all day and you're putting videos out there, and sometimes you want feedback from other creators, but you don't really know who to ask. And that's what I wanted to nurture. So I started all of that in my comment sections. Like that's why I reply to every comment, not because I didn't even put a link in my bio, you know, Pensight, till 40K, purely because I wanted to gain trust, but also to like actually let other users connect to each other in my comment section. Once that started happening, then I was ready to move forward with a Discord server.
Okay, so you also said earlier that you picked a niche, you know, that is very trendy on TikTok because everyone wants to learn how, not everyone, many want to learn how to grow on TikTok. But the truth is, that is also a saturated niche because there are lots of social media managers or content creators who talk about his tips. And I feel like this is actually one of the most saturated niches on TikTok, if you think about it. So I just wanted to make that distinction that although, you know, it is a common, popular, trendy topic, more people are talking about it, which makes it harder for you to stand out, right?
The one thing that I really stress is that you have to do things so differently than what's going on in whether it's your niche or a certain area. And I think a lot of people take like the controversial hook, I guess, and I'm using air quotes as if people could probably see that. But anyway, you know, using a controversial hook or a controversial topic, and that could be anything. Like, I don't like TikTok trivia because I don't. And I don't know if TikTok didn't like that I said that. But, you know, like taking something that's common and like kind of sharing your opinion, but also like some of the content that does really, really well. And I've noticed this across niches, right? Like whether you're a business owner, whether you're wanting to start a business, whether you're well established on TikTok or not, it doesn't matter how big your following is. The content that does really well is content where people can learn something, and not just learn anything, learn from your mistakes. The hooks that I see really drawing attention are, here are 5 things I wish I knew before I started blank, right? Here are 5 things I wish I knew before I started a business, or please do not do this. Here's why as a seasoned business owner, or I'm an entrepreneur. This is my journey. Here are 5 things that I wish I had done sooner, because people don't come to TikTok as experts. At least I don't. Like if I'm looking up TikTok tips, it's definitely not going to be on TikTok, right? So, you know, I think that like depending on your level of expertise, people typically come to TikTok to learn. So that's why I always tell people, hey, make sure you're doing beginner content, because people like, especially when they're starting a business, there's a lot riding on that. They've invested something, whether it's time, resources, energy, money, whatever that may be. So they want to learn from other people's mistakes so they don't lose money, lose time, lose resources. So there's that sense of urgency that people really have when learning on TikTok, right? So really playing up those types of narratives, because you have that knowledge, like you might as well teach other people. And the best quote that I've ever heard that applies to TikTok as well is, you are best suited to serve the people you once were. So if you weren't sure of what kind of business you wanted to start, or if you're not sure how to better service your customers from social media, think about the person or the business that you once were back in the early stages and talk about that from a very, very basic standpoint. And that's the best advice, like, that people tend to walk away with when they work with me, and it helps.
That is liquid gold over there, Cass. Honestly, that last tip was so important. Also because it helps with a common theme that I've seen for coaches, creators, which is imposter syndrome, right? Like that's a
Yes,
big one,
yes.
where you feel like you don't deserve to be where you are. And I think a great reminder for myself was this idea that sometimes it's enough if you're just 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of the person you're helping. And
Hmm.
that already like lifts a lot of weights off your chest. This idea, that you don't have to be the expert of the expert of the expert. You can just be somewhere a bit ahead of someone else and help them get where you are. And it's a process, a constant journey. And I think that switch and mindset helps a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And for
now,
the, just a quick tip for coaches too, because I find myself in the coach seat a lot as well, where I really think that you're right. You don't have to be the expert. And I find that the more authentic I am as a coach or somebody who's helping people through social media, like, I even put that in my disclaimer that the person that's coming to me is responsible at the end of the day for their own personal brand and their own content, right? And reiterating that, like, hey, I'm not going to like make you go viral. I'm going to help you learn tools that are sustainable, whether the algorithm changes or not, right? So I think that, like, putting those disclaimers out there from the beginning and communicating, like, hey, like, we're learning together. I never ever put myself on this pedestal just because I'm the coach or teaching somebody something, that my knowledge is any more important than anybody else's. I'm always happy that people select me to be their coach, but if anything, it's also a humbling experience too, because you're learning equally as much from them. So I try to take in as much as possible from the people that, I have a full intake form, and thank goodness, like, I'm not even saying this because I'm on Pensight. Like, I'm able to really, really figure out how to be transparent because of the intake form process that I have in place. So, being very prescriptive from the beginning really helps alleviate that imposter syndrome and that anxiety that comes with, okay, well, can they actually learn from me? Because they can. Like, you're obviously in the coach's seat for a reason. So really step up to that and be transparent.
love that. Love that, Cass. Now, to be a bit more practical and to get those juicy insights, um, I'm thinking so. You chose, yes, a trendy topic, which is TikTok content, but it's also, again, as I was saying before, it is a crowded space and there are lots of people who are creating this type of content. And you were saying that, your content needs to be different, or there needs to be something different about your content. What was the way that you tackled your content in order to stand out? Is there something different? Did you have it from the beginning in mind? Like, how did you go about the whole content creation in order to stand out?
It's funny. Originally, I thought I was going to get on social media and maybe talk about AI and using AI for social media, because I like do that in my spare time as I study AI and all of that stuff. And I wanted to help people use Chat GPT for social media, but it kind of took a pivot because I listened to my audience, right? So it's funny. I started like giving tips. So my first video ever on TikTok, which you can still see, I don't have very many, but were hooks that I generated from Chat GPT. And I was going to kind of like lead into it that way. And then I think my second video was like, I think it was just more tips and stuff. But then I started getting more questions on how to grow. And I'm like, okay, well, we can talk about that too. So my whole account pivoted because I was listening to my audience and their requests of what they needed. And I always took the whole approach of like, I didn't like that industry experts, and I'll use the TikTok social media industry, they would typically kind of just create a term out of thin air, because I would hear this from my audience. They'd be like, what does this term mean? And it was just basically a glorified way of saying something along the lines of like, you need to make your clips and your videos shorter. But of course they're monetizing off of that because they're running a business too. And I respect it. Like, we're all out here running businesses, but they would over explain really simple things. And I'm like, let's bring it back to the basics. So my whole premise of getting on TikTok was to make it as simple as possible. I'm like, if I can explain this to my grandma, will she understand it? Because my grandma is not a technical person and she's not on TikTok. And that's usually like what I keep in mind. Like, I wanted it to be that simple. So whether you're a beginner on TikTok or a well-seasoned person, I wanted to make sure that if I was explaining something complicated, everybody had access to it in the words that I was using. So accessibility was mostly my goal as well, because I didn't like all the terms floating out there for very simple marketing techniques or very simple social media things that are literally free on YouTube, right? So anyway, I just don't think people should pay for a course when they can find this information for free.
Very important lesson that I'm learning for you, Cass, is listen to your audience. So she did something, she tried a type of content, she put it out there, and then she listened. And she took the information from her audience, and then she had the choice to pivot. It worked for her. Maybe for some of you, it might not work. Cass, what should they do if, they listen to the audience, but they don't want to pivot that way? Is there anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah, just because I pivoted in a different direction, it was because I knew I could. Whereas if you have a full-on coaching program that goes in one direction and your comments are going in another, try to find a way to pivot it back to your subject area. So if you're getting a lot of questions, like if you did a video on breath work or meditative breathing or meditation, right? And then somebody's like, oh, like, do I do that during yoga? Like, you could easily like reply as a video to that question, which I always recommend doing. Like, reply to your audience. Not only does that help with engagement, but that helps you build a community. Like, nobody should be on TikTok to build an audience, because you don't want a bunch of random people following you. And we can get into the reason of that in a minute. But to finish this point, I really believe that we should take those questions and bring them back. Because a lot of people, I talked about IP addresses the other day. In theory, people have no idea that has anything to do with TikTok, but people like their own videos. And I'm like, look, don't do that from the same device or even a different account from the same device. So anyway, the questions went in a very different technical direction, but I always bring that back to my niche somehow. So if you can make that connection, great. If you can't, pick a different comment to engage with.
Got it. And just because you mentioned the one with don't comment to your own post from your own account, why? Tell us more. Like, what's your view on that? Or like,
people didn't like that video. And they were like really upset and very triggered by it, but it worked. So like the first time I made that video, it was really because I kept hearing, I want to say 9 out of 10 people that I talk to, I can always tell when they're liking their own videos, because their growth is exponentially like snail pace. And it's not like, no judgment to any users, but I can always tell, especially when it's like I'm reviewing an account or auditing an account, my first question is usually, are you liking your own videos? Because this person that I just looked at their account, they have 54,000 followers, right? Almost close to the amount of followers that I have. And I'm sitting there and they're getting 300 views. So something's wrong, because and their content's pretty high value. It's about like makeovers to the home, like very helpful information. And I was kind of confused as to why that was happening. And I asked the person, I'm like, are you liking your own videos just off chance? And she was like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, I can tell that this isn't circulating on the For You pages of your followers. Here's why. Because if in theory, 54%, let's take even 3% of that audience, that's still more than 300 people. So the fact that only 300 people viewed the video says to me that it's not circulating on the For You page, which also could mean that that person is shadow banned. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a very intense term for people's content not being showing up on the For You page. So that means that your audience isn't seeing your content. So a lot of reasons could contribute to that. They could have had a previous violation, which we won't get into, but they could also be liking their own videos, which if you're liking your own video from your own device, it's the same IP address. And it's just like you viewing your own video, the amount doesn't go up. So if I viewed my own video, any of my videos, the number never goes up, because TikTok doesn't recognize me on that device as one view. So why would it recognize a like as well if it's not even counting the view? And just because you have access to the like button doesn't mean that you should be utilizing it for that reason. And I've noticed that directly. I had somebody test this. I'm like, can you try liking your own videos for a week and see what happens? And I haven't seen that person's stuff on my For You page in a long time. Luckily, it was their test account, but nonetheless, it never comes up on anybody's For You page. So there's something to that. And I think TikTok has a way of understanding when somebody engages with their own post. And I don't think it leaves the confines of your location as well, because TikTok prioritizes location-based data. So like, imagine if you're liking your video in New York City, obviously there's a lot of people around, but like it might not leave your neighborhood, right? That might explain the 300 views. So I just tell people, like, don't let anybody in your house engage with it, because I want my stuff to grow organically and let TikTok take it where it needs to go, as opposed to me trying to control it. So that was a long-winded answer, but it's important.
That was interesting and controversial. I
Yeah,
like it.
people didn't like it, but there were a lot of comments that agreed with me as well. So I think it just depends on if you've experienced something like this firsthand. But some people are like, I've gone viral and done that. I'm like, well, great. I'm just talking about the people that TikTok still think is new. Like if I started liking my own videos today, because my account's so new, I think TikTok wouldn't like that. Whereas if somebody, like, maybe they've been on the platform for 2 years and they like their own videos, sure, maybe they'll be okay. Because TikTok already recognizes, like, they pose no threat, they've been on good behavior for 2 years, like that kind of thing. So for less established people, I don't recommend doing that.
I feel like it's very important to know that TikTok is running so many iterations of their platform at the same time. So it might be sometimes that some things might work for us that don't work for you. But in the end, I feel like the most important lesson is, Cass might be right or not about this thing with liking your videos, but that's why it's super important for you to focus on the principles, like the principles of content creation, because the tactics and strategies, yes, that they can change. But the principles of what makes good content, I feel like this is where our focus should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always quality over quantity. I have the number one question I used to get was, and I still get this to this day, but it's not as common, like, should I be creating 5 videos a day? I'm like, are you bringing high value 5 times a day? And everybody's like, oh, Gary Vee said to do this. I'm like, Gary Vee has a whole team. All due respect, I love Gary Vee. And I literally tell people this. I'm like, if he's listening or if he's watching my stuff, which he's probably not, but like, I respectfully disagree with him, because yes, I'm all about trying these things, but you also have to remember, you have to let your videos breathe. It's an algorithm, it's a system. And if you're a new account, TikTok's going to think you're spam. So yeah, maybe Gary Vee does well, but think about, again, that conversion ratio of, if he has 1 million followers on TikTok, like 10% of those people are going to see it within the first hour. So 10% of 1 million is obviously a lot more than 10% of your 1,000 followers. So of course the algorithm's going to push his stuff out, whether he posts it consecutively every hour. And he also has the capability of bringing high value because he's Gary Vee, right? He has a whole production team that takes care of that. Whereas with us, smaller creators that don't have the whole production team, we have to really be mindful of what we're putting out there, because we are the marketer, we are the strategist, we are the person that's filming the content. And especially when your account's new, the best advice I can give is let your videos breathe. And also bringing that value, but like, even if you do it once a day, whether you do it twice a day, put space between your videos. Not only is that strategic from a platform perspective, it also just makes sense, especially for the smaller amount of followers that you have. You need to like let TikTok do its thing and push the video out a little bit longer. Typically, if my video is not performing well, I hold off on posting, but I always post high value. So quality over quantity every time. So quality of information, quality of the video, quality of whatever you're providing, right? That has to be more important than just posting just to post. Because people are like, well, I just want to put something up there and I'm just going to add a trending audio just to be consistent. And I'm like, that's probably hurting your page more than it's helping, because who's learning from that? Like, who's actually wanting to watch that unless you have a pre-existing following that already really loves you? It's harsh, but it's true.
Yeah. And then you started not long ago. Can you tell us what was your schedule, let's say, in the beginning? Did anything change? How often do you post now?
In the beginning, I posted twice a day, and I want to say it was like for maybe 3 days. Like, I didn't, because I knew it wasn't sustainable. And I think a lot of misconceptions is that you have to, like, maybe if I did post twice a day, I'd grow faster. I'm not sure, but I don't even have the capacity to nurture an audience posting twice a day. Because you have to think about every video you put out is a standalone piece of content. That means that there's a strand of comments that comes with it. That means that there's that individual nurture that comes with that. There's the new followers that come in. And I think posting once a day is my sweet spot because that I know that I can maintain it. So from a schedule perspective, I film every day. And I don't let my life revolve around content creation. Content creation revolves around me. As in, because we're all busy people, like especially the coaches or entrepreneurs or anybody who's listening that owns a business, you don't want to spend all day on TikTok. I don't either. I don't have that kind of time. Even though I do TikTok tips, like my life doesn't revolve around TikTok. I film in the morning. I make sure my energy's right. I take care of myself first. I take my dog to the park. That's where I feel the best. That's where that casual vibe kind of comes in because that's how I feel the most relatable. And that's how I feel the most like I in tune with what people need. I don't know why, but that's in my car with my dog outside is usually where I go. But it's baked into my routine, right? So I find a way to film a video while I'm with my dog, kind of killing two birds with one stone. Again, busy person. And then I don't spend more than 15 minutes editing. I just make sure that it's highly optimized. I put my hashtags in there and I send it out the door. I used to like going live after posting a video, and I still really recommend doing that, especially if you have that capability to go live. I really, really have seen direct growth and implications from that across the board, no matter the niche. But now if I post a video, I usually go live later on in the evening. But yeah, strategies once a day, and it's built into my schedule as opposed to scheduling around it.
That really sounds like a hack, by the way, what you just said now. So you are saying that going live after posting a video will give you higher reach to the video.
Yes. Absolutely. Hands down. So I've seen this with any account that I'm helping, and this is across niches. So it's not just me being like a TikTok tips person. I've seen directly, and also my own followers will come onto my live and be like, hey, your latest video showed up on my For You page. And it's like one from last week. So especially when I'm doubting if my content is circulating with my audience, I'll go live and I'll ask. Because for the most part, like a lot of people will come to my live and from different videos on my page, whether it's a video that I just posted, whether it's the video from last week, but I've noticed significantly different results. And I'll give you an example from my page. The other day, I posted a video about not liking your videos. Controversial at that. So the quality was there, of course, but I posted that. Then 40 minutes later, I tried to do it within the first hour. This was in the evening. I went live, and I went live for maybe an hour. And that video got 35,000 views. Whereas I posted this other video one morning, pretty much the same topic. Just again, I repeated the topics to see. It was actually a shorter video, same value, just reinforcing the verbiage I used in the prior video. It got 5,000 and I didn't go live. So there's differences, and I'm trying to study that. So I use my own account as a use case, and that was a pure data point example that I have. And if I keep repeating that, it's the same. But I've heard a lot of that from people that I'm teaching. Hey, I went live and my videos were circulating more. People were coming to my live from the For You page.
So first of all, that's extraordinary, and I'm really glad you shared this tip with us. And I shall start doing that for our own accounts and videos. Now, you said 1 hour. 1 hour lives? Are you going almost every day for 1 hour live? Is that a thing?
I wish I could. I wish I could. That's the thing. Like, that's something where I have to be a bit more strategic with, because I'm noticing the trends now. So of course I analyze my own analytics like everybody else does, and my followers are more active at night. So I need to pivot my strategy. I used to post videos in the morning. Now I'm experimenting more with doing it in the evenings. So if I post a video in the morning, I'm not going live that day. But if I post a video at night, then I most likely will, just because it's easier logistically for me from a planning perspective and a life perspective. But I don't think you need to go live for an hour. I just find myself not wanting to get off live because I'm really connecting and vibing with my users and my followers. And I can't wait to like get on live with them, just because I've actually connected with some really, really good people. And a lot of them are in my Discord server, but even if they're not, like, a lot of people have found me from the For You page, and I'm so glad the For You page showed me to these amazing people, because I would have never had access to them had I not gone live. Like, some of my really good like TikTok friends, my TikTok besties, I call them, came from the For You page when I went live. So missing out on the ability to connect with other people is my motive. So I end up staying on live for an hour because I don't want to get off. One time I was on for 3 hours. I had nothing to do on a Saturday. I'm like, let me see if I can connect with my users today. And sure enough, like I had a great time. It's just like a constant conversation. But I know a lot of people are intimidated by going live. So just practicing and getting used to it. Even if you go on for 15 minutes, it's better than not doing it at all.
So I assume, apart from you enjoying live, I assume you also found a correlation between the length of the live and the reach that you get for your videos. Is that true?
Yeah, there is a direct correlation. I wouldn't say that it's anything astronomical. I'm not saying that I gained like thousands of followers by being live for 3 hours. Like I think I gained like maybe 20, which is good, right? Like I never like take that for granted. But I think it's less about the followers and more about the push, right? Like it pushes stuff out that hadn't seen views in days, you know, like, and my stuff was still seeing views, but I would see a significant increase. So I guess it reaches more people, the live does, but I also think that that works in parallel with all of the other content that's been circulating on your page. So I see significantly better results when I've been live, both from like an engagement perspective. I think one live, I think it was 3 days ago, I had 800 viewers, and I'm like, you know what, that's 800 more people that got to see my content, whether they were already familiar with it or not, from the For You page. So I can assume that they all, like maybe the same amount or even a half of that amount is good, saw my other videos in circulation too.
I was looking at your content and I tried to see for myself what works. Like, what is it that, like gets that reach and exposure? And I saw that one commonality, particularly for your content, were keywords and probably a focus on SEO search. Can you tell us what are you doing with keywords, SEO search? What are the things that we have to know about that?
That's like a whole separate podcast, but I will give you the brief summary version. If your term is not searchable on TikTok, use a different term. And what I mean by that, and I tell this on my lives a lot, I wish I could demonstrate it better on a podcast, but basically, if you go in the search bar and you type in, I'm going to say TikTok, like I never use the words TikTok tricks and tips. I can't even pronounce it because it sounds like one of those like tongue twisters, right? But I've never used those words, but you'll see that across my videos at the top of the screen. It says TikTok tricks and tips, but it's because that's a searchable term on TikTok. So some people are coming to me being like, I want to talk about horoscopes, which that's a searchable term. But then if they start going into like birth charts, astrology stuff, you have to make sure that term's searchable. So how you do that is you go in the search bar and you type in, let's just say astrology, right? And then you look at the first 30 videos. Don't even look at the content. Just look at the videos in the search bar and look at what comes up and see what they have in common. And I take the one that has the most common phrase, and I literally tell anybody, because this is obviously I'm doing this for people outside of my own niche, but we'll take the most common phrase and stick that on each video in the first 3 seconds. I really think there's something to having that text on screen. Some people are like, do I hide it? I'm like, but if you're talking about astrology, why are we hiding the text on the screen? Like nobody pays attention to it. Like TikTok speaks one language, humans speak another. And that's one of my videos that went viral because it's true. Like you need to talk to TikTok like you're training a dog, right? So until it starts recognizing you for those key terms, even if you're not niching down, I recommend you do because it makes you a bit more recognizable to the algorithm. It's like training a puppy. Like if you tell a puppy to sit the first time, he's not going to sit. He's going to like look at you and be confused. But that constant reinforcement, so giving the puppy treats, the treats on TikTok are the tags, the hashtags, and the key terms that are actually searchable. That's the reinforcement until you start having something in your search bar. There's a lot of speculation about what goes into that search bar. And again, that's why this could be another video another time, but there's a lot to it. But I just recommend making sure your terms are searchable before you even put them on your screen.
Again, you mentioned hide your keywords. For those that don't know, is basically you write the text, but you make it smaller and move it somewhere around the screen where it's not really visible. I wanted to ask first, do you think that works? And should we maybe put some of the keywords like that? And second, do you think that the length of the text box on the screen matters as well. For example, if you have the hook for 3 seconds compared to like the whole length of the video, does that make a difference?
I haven't noticed lengthwise. I've always, pretty much every video that I've had, at least now TikTok recognizes me, but of course we're training a puppy here. So until it did, I literally use the same term. And I will say that there was one video where I said people need to stop gatekeeping, blah, blah, blah. And now it's literally categorized as gatekeeping. So it's in the first box, and I didn't keep that word on the screen for more than the first 3 seconds. That's why I mentioned that earlier. Like, I think there's something to the first 3 seconds of the video, the text, whether it's the captions, right? So if your captions are enabled, that could be the words from the captions, and that could also kind of count as the first words, or it's the text on screen that you intentionally put there. But I was asking some of my users on live one time, I'm like, why is this video gatekeeping? Because we were trying to theorize why that was happening, because it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And it brought a completely different audience to that video than I was anticipating. And that's why SEO is important, because if it were TikTok tips and tricks, it would be a different audience. But now it's different side of TikTok that came. So I think it's that first 3 seconds. I'm almost positive. I don't think I'd bet any money on it. I'm not a betting person, but if I was, that would be it.
And I think, I'm not sure if you mentioned here or just in your videos, but it's also saying it out loud, right? Not just the text on the screen, but does saying it out loud help the algorithm or not?
I think it depends. That's where I'm not sure, right? Like, I think because I said the words, people need to stop gatekeeping, and it was on the screen, that way it registered twice with TikTok. So, I mean, there's always a chance, because I've had people do like these narration videos with the captions enabled, but no text on top of their screen. And TikTok picked up that text because it was the only text on the screen. So I think that, like, always be considerate of that. But again, content, like your quality of content takes priority. So if it doesn't feel natural to say your keyword, like, again, you never hear me say TikTok tricks and tips. I think I use the word TikTok, but I don't even know if I say the word tip in my content. So that's also something to be considerate of. Like, I think they would have probably picked up different words, even though my keyword was that. So play around with it, right? Like, obviously, if your first sentence is something along the line, like if you're doing astrology and you're like, this is your birth chart reading for the day, or, you know, your birth chart reading, and then your thing is astrology at the top and then birth chart registers, then obviously you know that TikTok's looking at your captions closer than it's looking at the intentional text on the screen.
All I hear is test, test, test.
Test, yes.
Test.
Because nobody's good. You're only going to be the best expert of your account, and your poorest performing videos should be your favorite videos, because it tells you what not to do and what you can improve. There's so much, like, I love the videos of mine that don't do well, because then I'm like, okay, well, we're not doing that again. What can we do better?
I love that. And once more, just before we're wrapping out, I see you talking about the importance of listening to your audience. So it's not just about what you think works or what you want to say. It's about what they are searching for, what they are looking for, what is their language. And that's something that you need to master. So try to, put yourself in their shoes, or just literally like search for what they're searching for. Ask them in the calls, see what they're looking for, the language that they use, how they found you, so that, can attract more of people like that. And just before we're going, Cass, 2 more questions for you. The first one is, any last golden nuggets, golden tips you are having, something controversial, something that it's been asked a lot and you have found an answer for?
Yeah, it actually relates to assumptions based on what people like. Don't make things that you think people want, because sometimes people are like, this video should have done better, like, I don't know why I didn't do well. And then I look at it and I'm like, well, are people actually searching for this? And I think it's not to be mean. It's just more because I think we make a lot of assumptions of what people want to hear. So golden nugget, if you're in a certain niche, or even if you're not, like if you just want to do lifestyle stuff and get ready with me, go into the comment section of a person that does get ready with me videos. Look at what people are asking for. Look at what people are talking about. If they're like, try Charlotte Tilbury's blah, 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 which, I mean, if I were doing makeup, I'd be like, yes, that's the first thing I'm doing. And I've heard that TikTok allows you to reply to other people's videos. That might be a feature they're rolling out. I'm not sure. So that's potentially something new. I'm not sure, that could be a rumor, but I've been hearing that a lot lately in my comments. But look at what other people are commenting and asking questions about in the niche that you prefer, and start, like, that's your direct research. Those are actual people on TikTok, especially if it gets a lot of likes. Answer those questions, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, this should have done better. I was giving a really good sales tip here. And I'm like, okay, like, I could see that doing well, but if it's not getting in front of the right audience, or maybe salespeople like don't really, they didn't pay attention the whole time, or there's so many reasons why people aren't looking at it. But outside of those, I think we do make a lot of assumptions on what people want to hear, and we think what's valuable to us is what's valuable to TikTok. So that's a golden nugget as it relates to everything, because we can't underestimate the importance of the user, or typical TikTok user experience. So that's why I pivoted, because I purely was like, okay, let's see what direction this could go. It seems like there's a definite need here. Sure enough, that was confirmed. So, don't be afraid to try new things. I think that's probably the best advice I could give. Like, people are so like careful with their TikTok accounts, like it's some baby that they don't want to drop. And I'm like, if you try something and it flops, okay, like it's gonna be all right. So I think like they treat it like it's this fragile object, like it's going to ruin them. I'm like, well, what, like, they're like, what if it gets less than 300 views? Like, my average is 300. I'm like, but what if it gets more? Like, let's have that glass half full mentality when we're testing here.
I wish I would end here, but I'm not. I'm going to make it more complicated. I'm
Love
going to
it.
make it more complicated with my last question, which I'm sure will open the Pandora box. So I know you talk about TikTok tips, but as a TikTok coach, I know that you also are looking at this psychological component. So any sort of blockages
Yeah, blockages. Yeah.
that might be in your way when you try to achieve your goals on TikTok. Can you briefly tell us what you mean about that, and what should we know or like be aware of when it comes to this psychological components?
I'm so glad you asked that question. That is the perfect one to end on, because energy in your video is everything. And people are probably like, oh my gosh, this girl's nuts. But it's true. Like, because people think about when you're on the For You page and somebody isn't showing up authentically, because you can feel it. Like, we're human beings, even though we're looking at people on a screen. Like, you can tell when somebody on Zoom isn't feeling their best or doing their best. Like, they might not say it, but you can feel it. And same thing, like when you're trying to sell something, or when you're trying to market something, or when you're trying to just put a video out there and it's just to put it out there just because, people feel that. Especially, it's almost like this desperate energy, because if your mindset is like, I have to get this number of views in order to make it on TikTok, for whatever the reason may be, if they want to monetize their account, whatever that reason that's holding them to TikTok, we can feel that. So I think if your mindset is in a very desperate place, I really recommend that you look inward and you really, really take time to think about why that's the case, and why you're even on TikTok, because you're not even going to be able to effectively serve your audience if all you want to do is take from them, right? So I think like when you're in a different mindset, in a space of giving and service, that really turns the switch, because people gravitate to you like naturally towards you. Because if you're in that, like, I'm not here to sell anything. If people want to work with me, they can, but like, I'm not pushing anything on anybody. And I think that because like releasing the need to be just overly successful, and that expectation comes from yourself. So I think doing a lot of internal work, I had to do that before I showed up on TikTok, because if you are validated by good or bad comments, like the lack thereof, I guess, but if you're validated by good comments or torn apart by bad ones, then you're probably not meant to go viral on TikTok, because like the comment sections are hard. And I have videos all over YouTube on that too, because you guys are learning right here with me. Like, I didn't know what it felt like to have this much exposure. So getting your mindset right before you grow is the best favor you can do for yourself, because it only protects you in the long term as you grow. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it was a really good one.
It did. And I'm so happy, and that I did bring it up, because it's a beautiful way to wrap this up. And just as a reminder that in the end, content is in a way energy, as crazy as people might think we are to say this, but it is an exchange if you think about it. And for yourself as the content creator to manage to be in a good mood, or like whether that's relaxed or like just to be authentically you, as you were saying, I think that's one of the biggest assets that we can have. And overall, I would say, it's a constant journey. It's not that you get the mindset right and that's it, I'll be good from now on. No, it's a constant journey. It's a carousel, up and downs, and it's fine if it's fine if your content reflects that as well. But I think it's more of understanding that it's a journey, and that's how we should treat it and see it. And yeah.
Totally. It's a TikTok journey for sure. I agree.
Yeah. Now, Cass, please tell us, how can people find you? Where should they find you? What can they learn from you if it wasn't already, like if they did not get the hints already?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm all over TikTok. I am working on making more content on different platforms, and everybody's learning right here with me too. So I'll definitely document how I'm doing on Instagram. Trying Facebook out again. Apparently that place is popping right now. I don't know why. Like, I haven't used that since middle school, but I'm coming back. And so I'm all over social media, CreatorsByCass. And I also have a Discord server, and I have a link in my bio, courtesy of Pensight. I literally can't believe I found you guys and you found me. Just so wild. But yeah, I have a lot of different ways to contact me, work with me, all hosted through Pensight, thankfully. But you can find me on social media for the most part, CreatorsByCass.
Creators by Cass, right?
Yep.
Right.
CASS, yeah.
CASS. And tell us one more time about that creator community. Who should be interested in that, or like what is the value that you offer?
Yeah, great question. I probably should have talked about that more, but I think it's basically a Discord server. I created this Discord server with another creator. He's a social media manager as well. And basically it's a safe space for creators. There's a rant area. So if we're mad at the TikTok algorithm or any other algorithm for that matter, I just didn't want to have to go live to have good conversations, right? I wanted my users to be able to interact with each other, or also beyond just me. Like, this community is not about me. This is about people coming together and asking questions. If I can answer them, great. So sometimes I'll come in and I'll answer a question, but I mostly host resources in there. So I have a masterclass on ChatGPT that's in there. I have a hashtag template in there. I will be putting a video on how to analyze your metrics and analytics in a very specific way. I also have a content creation calendar because I couldn't find one that I liked on the market. So I made my own, and that's in there. So just little resources that I find that help me be successful, I just put in there. Because even if you put all those resources in your link in your bio, it becomes a really long series. So I'm like, let's just put them all somewhere. So they're hosted in Discord, and I think the creators in there are going to start a podcast. Like, everybody's really close knit. I'm just really thankful for the group that we have in there. We have about 25 members right now, which I'm already blown away by, but lots of interest to join. So anybody is welcome. If you're a content creator, or if you just have a lot of questions about this process, like content creation people, anybody on social media, this is your place to hang out with other creators that are doing the same thing.
So you guys heard Cass. If you want to know more about TikTok, if you want to be part of a community, check her community out on her Discord channel, if I'm right or not. It is Discord channel, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, Discord.
So, Cass, this has been wonderful. I could have asked more, and even now I have one that is stuck on my mind, but I shall keep it maybe for next time, because there's so much more to learn, and there's always something to change and always something else to learn. But for now, I will just say thank you on my behalf, on behalf of the listeners, for all the value and all the tips, and for the beautiful energy that you shared with us. And any last words for our audience?
Oh my gosh, no, I'm so thankful. And just keep going, guys. TikTok, all the different social media channels are a lot to manage, but you're doing great. Just show up when you feel like you can and just bring value. But yeah, keep going. Everything's going to work out.
One step after the other. We're all in this together in the end.
We are.
And that's why I feel like the power of the community, like you're building, Cass, is so important, because in the end, that really can be the thing that can make a difference for us.
Totally.
So yeah, find your tribe. If not, create your tribe and keep going, as Cass was saying. Well, what can I say? Thank you, Cass. Thank you, dear listeners, for sticking till the end. And I shall see you all for the next episode of the Coach Tribe podcast. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoy this episode.
We'll be releasing every Wednesday, so make sure to
Subscribe
and rate us 5 stars where you're listening to this show to give others a chance to discover it too.